Let's be honest, have you ever wondered why it's just so hard to stick with things? Well, today we're going to dig into the surprising science behind consistency, and it's probably not what you think. You know the drill, right? You start a new workout plan, you promise yourself you're going to read more, maybe learn a new language, you're all in, totally motivated. And then a few weeks, or shoot, even a few days later, poof, it's gone. If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. It's an almost universal experience. But here's the most important thing I want you to hear. This has nothing to do with you being lazy or undisciplined. It is not a moral failure. The real reason you find it so hard to be consistent is actually hardwired into your brain.
So let's dive into this quitting conundrum. If it really is just our brain's wiring, what is actually going on up there when we decide to just give up? Let's figure out why this struggle feels so familiar to all of us.
Our go-to explanation is almost always to blame ourselves, right? We start telling ourselves these stories. I just don't have enough willpower. Or see, I knew it, I'm just lazy. But those labels, they aren't just unhelpful. They're just plain wrong.
And this is where the whole conversation shifts. We need to move away from blaming our character and start looking at a biological mechanism. It turns out there's a specific, identifiable part of your brain that's really calling the shots here.
Which brings us to the star of the show. Let's meet the surprising and honestly super fascinating part of your brain that's responsible for this whole internal battle.
Okay, I know, that is a mouthful. The Anterior Midcingulate Cortex, or aMCC for short. You can think of this little area as the project manager for anything difficult. It looks at a challenge and basically gives the green light or the red light on whether you're actually going to spend the energy to do it.
But let's just forget that complicated scientific name for a second. There is a much better, much more powerful way to think about what the aMCC actually does.
This is it. This is the core idea. Think of your aMCC not as some fixed part of your brain, but as a muscle. It's your effort muscle. And just like any other muscle in your body, it can be weak from lack of use, or it can become really, really strong.
So how does this muscle actually work when you're facing a choice? What's the internal debate that's happening inside your head in that moment of decision?
I mean, really? This is the fundamental conflict your brain deals with all day long. Do I watch one more episode, or do I go for that run I promised myself? Do I mindlessly scroll on my phone, or do I pick up that book? It's always the easy path versus the hard path.
And this is that internal debate happening in real time. On one side, you've got the path of least resistance, comfort, what feels good right now. On the other, you've got the path of deliberate effort. And to choose that harder path, your aMCC, your effort muscle, has to fire up and win that debate.
The process itself is actually pretty simple. First, you think about doing something that's even a little bit hard. Then, your aMCC engages, and if it's strong enough, boom, you take action. If it's weak, you automatically take the easier path. And that's not a bug, it's a feature, an ancient one designed to conserve our energy for, actual survival.
Okay, and this brings us to the most empowering part of this entire idea. If the aMCC is a muscle, that means you can train it, you can make it stronger. And the best part, you don't need some massive, life-altering plan to do it.
The secret isn't trying to become a totally different person overnight. Not at all. The key is just trying to exert 1% more effort. Just get 1% better, consistently. That is the entire mindset shift.
So we have to stop chasing this impossible idea of being perfectly consistent. It doesn't exist. Instead, we need to focus on practice. Every single time you choose the slightly harder path, that's a repetition. It's one rep that makes your aMCC stronger.
So what do these little workouts actually look like? Well, they're tiny choices. Taking the stairs, doing just one push-up, reading a single page of a book, choosing water instead of soda. Each one seems tiny, but it's a small workout for your consistency muscle, making it way easier to tackle the bigger stuff down the road.
All right, let's bring this all together. Because understanding your aMCC isn't just a cool piece of brain trivia. It completely reframes how you should look at your own struggles and your own successes.
This, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. You are not a consistent person or an inconsistent person. Those are just fixed, unhelpful labels. The truth is, consistency is a skill, just like learning an instrument, and the only way you get better at it is by practicing.
So the next time you choose to take the stairs or you decide to wash that one dish sitting in the sink, don't just brush it off as a meaningless little action. Recognize it for what it truly is, a successful workout. It's a single rep that's making you stronger for tomorrow.
Look, this knowledge is only powerful if you actually use it. So I'll leave you with this question. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be life-changing, it just has to be a choice. What tiny 1% harder action will you take today to do your first rep?